Hello. Happy Thanksgiving. I have a story to tell. Today, just like every day, I went for my sunrise walk and meditation. And as I was sitting out there, I felt the energy of a story. Let me explain. Storytelling is one of my absolute favorite things. Whether it be a story of something I've experienced or a story of, well, anything. I used to write a lot when I was younger. Story after story after story would come to me, a lot of them short stories. But this is how this happens. So, as I'm sitting there, watching the sunrise and staring at the stars as they fade, watching the clouds drift, I feel energy. And sometimes that energy tells me a story. And what began as gratitude turned into the greatest love story of all time. I've spoken before about the love story of ice and fire. It goes a little deeper than that. So I'm going to tell the story with he's and she's, but I want to make it very clear that the only way that I'm telling any difference between he's and she's is because of the way that the energy flows, feels, the direction, whatever it is. There's a difference between the feeling of the feminine energy versus the feeling of the masculine energy. But most of this is being spoken about, well, elements. And that's not really a gender, right? It's an element. And so it's not really about men or women. It's solely about the way that the energy flows. Okay? Now, let's begin with this story. I wish not to discuss that which was before consciousness, solely that which led to the consciousness and that which followed after. Prior to the consciousness, there is chaos. There's nothingness. From this stillness is where the first thought emanates. But prior to that first thought in the stillness was observation of the stillness, watching the chaos. The stillness in the Gnostic texts is called the monad, but we'll just think of it as stillness. The stillness just observes that which is going on in the chaos. That which is going on in the chaos is all potential and no control. So you have all of your elements bumping into each other, creating explosions, interacting, sometimes volatile, sometimes not. And as the stillness observes this, that's when the first thought emerges. Sorry, children. So the first thought that emerges is about these observations of the chaos. And as I've spoken before about the ice and fire, the first spark created a reaction. That reaction felt like something. Make sense, I guess? So let's say kind of like that first feeling you feel when you catch, I don't know, a glance of somebody that's attractive. That feeling, that like electric feeling that goes through you. Not necessarily an explosive feeling, but just that, oh, well, I like the way that feels. And this creates within the stillness a feeling. Why is it that this continues to happen in patterns? There's patterns. It happens with certain things. Certain things seem to be attracted to each other. Okay. Observation. First, there comes the thought. The thought creates the first emanation, and that thought is of self. This was never a thought before, which is why it was nothingness. But if it's a thought, it is no longer nothingness, and so then it is expelled from the nothingness. And now we have a thought form expelled from the nothingness. Now, another observer. This observer is a thought. Therefore, it has consciousness. As much consciousness as a thought can have. Now observing, creating more thoughts, creating more understanding, creating more consciousness. Stillness observing, self-observing. Feelings emerge. Okay, so apparently I only have like 20 more minutes. Less than that because I gotta get ready. So, feelings emerge, okay? The first feeling you could probably imagine is, well, I am alone. This is sad. Okay. So, thought creates a mirrored reflection of self. This is observed by the unconscious material, that which is within the chaos. This is the energy that starts to rise. So the first thought form begins to create with the material within the chaos. That which is within the chaos, that is unconscious, yet has the ability to become conscious, begins to become conscious. Observation, observing something in control, creates a desire within the element to bring self under control. The thought that was created, we'll call this I. The thought that was created is I. This creates the emanation of the being observing that is being observed. Stillness observing I I observing chaos, elements observing I. Consciousness becomes aware of self. The elements become aware. I becomes the center of the universe. Light is attracted to I, creating the first star. Light. Darkness observes light. Every single one of these things that was attracted to the other. See it as magnetism, polar opposites. Oh my gosh. I was just hit by an attack of the 1980s. I take 2 steps forward, you take 2 steps back. But understand that when these things happen in this particular way, one becomes the other. So, for example, darkness observes light, attracted to the light, then becomes light. Darkness cannot survive in the light. Darkness must transform self in order to become a part of the light. I spoke a couple of days ago about the yin and yang, how it's kind of like a kill switch. So again, darkness is absorbed by light. Just because when darkness is exposed to light, it is no longer darkness. So, in order for darkness to be able to enter light, it must transform self into the yin and yang. Now you have a containment system to be able to contain the darkness within the light and separate the light from the darkness, but allow them to still be together. Make sense? Through the glass, through the looking glass, into reflection. This is where evolution starts to take place. Because just as much as darkness was attracted to light, light was attracted to darkness. Hence the ever-expanding light. Emanations began to come from stillness, because stillness observed, and then things happened. These thoughts, these emanations, not necessarily controlled. They're just emanations of observations. Eventually, these thought forms, like the original thought form, begin to create. As they continue to create, they're all brought back to the same thing. That pairing. The energy itself will attach to that which it is meant to attach to. So as the wave of energy goes, there's a positive and a negative side of that energy. Just like a magnet, you're attracted to that polar opposite. Why? Balance? Yes. But it's that reaction that the balance creates. That energy knows it's positive and negative and neutral. It just knows it. For me, this is love. Really, honestly, it's science. We're going to be attracted to that energy that is the polar opposite. When you understand that polar opposite in self and can hold all of that energy of self, that's when it's no longer, I take 2 steps forward, you take 2 steps back, in a bad way. It's now you have become both ends of the spectrum and move together as an entire bandwidth, holding all of that energy between the two, and that's your neutral zone. That which is within can be held without. If you can't hold all of your own whole spectrum in a healthy way, 2 steps forward and 2 steps back feels like chasing and pulling, instead of holding an entire bandwidth of energy between 2 people. This is how creation is the greatest love story of all time. I speak about the way that I see the universe as the alpha and the omega are the both ends of the spectrum, the light to dark. Okay? The dark is the nothingness from which the emanations come. It is from there that they gain their consciousness and return to the light, which is the source of the creation, the thought, creation. Both ends of the spectrum held by the alpha and the omega. It's the same with the ice and the fire. The ice and the fire cannot be together unless they transmute that energy. They have to maintain that space. The space in between is the water zone and the earth zone, your Goldilocks zone. That entire spectrum has to be able to be held in order to create the rainbow bridge in between. you know what this created within me? Understanding existence from this perspective has allowed me to see that every single little bit of creation is an act of love, the greatest love story of all time. I am the Alpha and the Omega because the Alpha is connected to the Omega as both ends of the spectrum. Polar opposites can't be here unless they've learned how to be here within self, completely whole. Otherwise, the yin yang will self-destruct. Kill switch engaged. Bye, guys.